G'day legends. In this video, I want to chat about a bit of a recurring theme that I have been noticing since I've been doing YouTube for the last 2.5 years. And you know what? I've been noticing it long before that. And I was even part of the problem long before that. And I really want to address an attitude and a mindset that's going on here. I'll post mixing videos demonstrating how to take, something raw to a finished sound. And I always get these kinds of comments pop up. Oh, well, it helps when it was recorded in a pro studio, or it helps that it was recorded with all of that pro gear that you have. It helps that it already sounds amazing before you even did anything to it. And a lot of the times it makes me laugh, but it's kind of getting to the point now where I feel like maybe we need to talk about this a little bit, because on a lot of those videos, the material I'm using is actually from my early days of recording. I feel like grabbing that stuff is usually great for when I do demonstrations because they were recorded in a really basic home studio setup. I did a video where I mixed some drums that were recorded downstairs at my parents' house. They just had this big tile downstairs lounge room, all brick walls. I had a Mackie Onyx 16-channel Firewire desk. No fancy preamps, very clean, basic pre's. My mic selection was definitely more in that mid to lower tier selection of mics. Like, I hadn't had a big budget to spend on mics. It was just stuff that I slowly saved up and paid for over time. But this mindset, like, it already sounded good before you did anything to it. That's the mindset you need to have when you approach a recording, whether it's at home or in a professional recording studio. And I've always said on this channel, I'm a firm believer that you can get great sounding recordings at home. I don't feel like you have to go and spend a huge amount of money on treatment, but I do feel like a little bit of treatment is definitely going to help you. And that's something that you're going to have to invest in, which we will talk about. But even without all that stuff, you can still get great sounding recordings at home like I used to do back at my parents' house. The thing this comes down to is, how much are you willing to learn? How much are you willing to invest in this craft? Because thinking that you can just go buy a microphone and chuck it in front of something and get a great sounding recording is not going to happen. Like, that's what I did when I first started. I just didn't know what I was doing. I just bought some mics and I just started mucking around at home. And a lot of those first recordings I did are absolute crap. They don't sound any good at all because I didn't know what I was doing with mic placement. I was figuring things out. I was making a ton of mistakes. Now, could I fix those in a mix later? I could maybe make them sound a little bit better, but they're not going to be as good as if I nailed getting it right at the start in the first place. A lot of people struggle with mixing drums, and I struggled with drums when I first started recording as well. I would put microphones up. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about phase. I just kind of put them where I thought they looked good, and then I just hoped for the best. And a lot of the times I wouldn't even realize, why is it when I turn this up, the snare gets quieter, or why does it sound thinner? Because I didn't understand phase when I was doing it. And then I would compare my recordings to the pro mixes that I like the sound of. I'm like, well, why does mine sound so rubbish? I'm like, well, I guess I just need to use drum samples. I'll just replace the kick and snare and toms and just not worry about trying to learn how to mix them very well. I'll just go straight into using good sounds like that and won't worry about figuring out how to get great at mixing the actual source sound. And I know there's a lot of people who do this, and that was my early mindset. So don't judge me too hard on that, but that's what I was kind of like. I was like, oh, I don't even care with the mic placement anymore. I'm just going to trigger drums off it. I would just chuck a bass drum mic in the bass drum like they would at a live gig, just kind of plop it in there and we'll pick the kick up, it'll be fine. As opposed to getting on a mic stand and positioning it just right and making sure you're getting it where you want it to get the right amount of proximity and the sound that you want to hear from that mic. It's just I'll chuck it in and I'll trigger a kick off it. But that's a crap mindset. But my thought was it's just a home studio. It's just, this is how I'm going to make it sound better. I can't get those pro sounds like those guys. So that's a hole that I fell into. And it took me a little while then to come back and realize that actually I can get good drum sounds if I position these mics properly, if I tune the kit well, if the drummer plays the drums well and balances their playing well, so they're not just smashing super loud cymbals and I'm not getting enough of the shell and there's bleed and everything. If the drummer can actually balance their playing well and I can get all the phase lined up, and now I can get this sounding pretty good because I understand as well how to EQ and compress it. So there's this huge amount of things that have to line up at the bottom so that at the top, it sounds the best it can be. If you're putting crap in at the bottom and expecting amazing results out at the top, well, of course, it's not going to sound as good and you're not going to get there overnight. And complaining about that kind of thing just makes me feel like there's this attitude of I want good results, but I don't want to work for them. And getting good tones takes work. Like I said, if you're doing drums, you got to spend time tuning that kit, making it sound good. You got to make sure the drummer hits them well. There's all those little things that are going to matter so much more before you even put the microphones on the kit. Yes, the room does play a part. Like if you've got a really small room, then maybe you want to get some treatment in there to stop those quick reflections that are going to bounce back. But do you have to go and spend thousands and thousands of dollars? No, you can spend a couple $100 on some of that kind of like thick pyramid sound foam, like the stuff that's kind of like this deep, not like that thin stuff. That's pretty rubbish. The thickest stuff gets down into those lower mids, which is where a lot of build-ups happen in small spaces. Or you can go and learn how to make acoustic panels like this. They're relatively cheap. It's a bit of insulation inside a wood frame with fabric wrapped around it, and it absolutely does an amazing job, and it's pretty cost effective if you just go and do it yourself. So if you're doing your recordings at home but you're not learning that foundational skill of how to record a sound well, then of course everything after that is going to suffer. For example, I did a video the other day talking about how to record your vocals properly, and we talked about things like proximity effect. As you get closer to the mic, your voice gets boomier. If your mic gain is too hot, you're going to clip the mic. If you don't use a pop filter, you're going to get plosives on the mic that pop it and sound terrible. There's so many little things that add up to making a great sounding recording, and it all happens right at the beginning. So it's an investment of time. You don't have to have the best microphones, but you have to invest your time into learning some skills, into honing some skills to get good results, even with your playing style. If you play the acoustic guitar and you're tracking a song and you're thrashing that guitar really hard and it's sounding real jangly and messy and buzzy, and like you listen to it back and go, oh, it sounds a bit messy, you need to adjust your playing style. Maybe you need to just work on playing a bit softer and get the guitar sounding a little bit nicer. There's so many things that are more than just placing a microphone and hoping for the best. And yes, guys, there is some Spinlight Studio merch floating around now. We've got the Good Day Legends shirt right here. This is something I've been working on for a little while now and building up some cool shirts, some hats, a couple of jumpers. If you want to help support this channel, you don't need drum sample packs, you don't need mixing courses, you don't want any of that stuff. But you like merch? Well, there's now a link in the description below to where you go and grab some merch. Now, we were talking about investing time into learning how to get good at recording, but there is a point when you're going to have to think about investing money into your studio as well. If you really want to get great results, well, then you do have to start thinking about what are the things and where are the places that I need to start investing my money to improve my recordings. Because if you're not going to go and pay a professional in a professional space to record your tracks and get good sounding recordings, and you want to do it at home by yourself, then you need to try and make your space as good as possible to make it sound like professionally recorded material. So that does mean investing more in treatment. So like I said before, having a little bit of treatment's good, but then you can really go and get a lot of treatment in your space, which will cost you a bit more money over time because material costs and the time to do it as well. But that's going to make your space sound so much better. Microphones, you're probably going to want to start investing in better microphones. You don't have to go for like the top tier thousands and thousands of dollar microphones. There's plenty of mid-range mics that are only a couple of $100, you know, below $1,000 that sound really good, but they're going to sound so much better than the really budget tier stuff. You know, like you can buy those drum mic packs. A lot of those don't sound that great. You're going to want to start individually buying certain mics for your kicks, snare, and your toms. Overheads in particular, you're going to want to invest in a nice pair of condenser mics to get good sounding overheads. That's going to take time, and depending on your full-time job and how much income you bring in, you may not be able to afford to do that quickly. I know that when I started out, I was just doing drum teaching and playing gigs, and I slowly built my gear up over years and years and years until it's what you're seeing in these videos before you. I've never had a loan. I never had money given to me to go and buy studio gear. I worked my butt off and saved hard to buy the gear that I wanted to make good records. And so for me, my goal has always been to do this at a professional level. But where I began is exactly where everyone else starts out, with a basic interface, a couple of basic microphones, and I was still able to get some good quality recordings, which even now I use them on this channel all the time, and I can still get great sounding mixes out of them. Because that's a mindset that I see floating around as well. Well, of course you can get good sounding results if you have good sounding gear. I have heard plenty of crap recordings that have come from $1 million recording studios where they've got everything. They've got the Fairchild compressors, they got all this stuff, and someone will send me a mix and it's just like, it sounds like crap. That's because even though they've got all this great stuff, they don't know how to use it properly. You can make terrible recordings in a professional studio space. You can still get terrible source tones if you do not know what you're doing. You can have the best microphones, you can have awesome compressors and rack gears and preamps, and your mix can still suck because you don't know what you're doing with it. I suppose the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you have the mindset like that, like, oh, well, like their stuff sounds good because they've got good source material, then you need to get good source material. Start working on your skills at getting good sounds at the beginning. It's going to make mixing so much easier for you. And if your mindset is, well, they've got good results because they've got great sounding gear, well, start saving, start working towards the things that you think are going to help improve your recordings. If I'm being honest, unless you're recording drums, you probably only need like 3 or 4 mics in your studio. You don't need a ton of microphones to do good recordings. It just becomes a bigger hurdle when you want to track drums. That's where the biggest investment is ever going to come into a recording studio, is when you're doing huge multi-mic recordings. If you're just a project studio doing like one sound at a time and you're not going to record drums, you're going to use MIDI, you only need to invest in maybe one good vocal microphone, and then you can do good vocal recordings. You maybe only need to invest in a couple of dynamic microphones if you're going to record a guitar amp. There's not that much that you really need to get good sounding recordings. I've done plenty of recordings before where you just use the one microphone, you use it on your acoustic guitar, you use it on your voice, you use it on percussion, you use it on any other sounds. You can plug your guitar straight in and get great guitar tones with plugins these days. So I probably repeated myself a little too much. I've probably rambled on a little too long about this, but I feel like this is a mindset that we have to break, because good sounding recordings, they do come from good source material. And if you're saying, well, you need to show us how to get a good sound with bad source material, that's not how I work. That's not how anyone who gets a good song works. They don't go, hey, I'm going to take this crap recording and make it sound good. Sure, sometimes you try to. Sometimes you don't have a choice when you do this as a job. People just send you bad material and you do your best with it. Sometimes it still ends up sounding pretty mediocre because it was just so bad to start with. There wasn't that much you can do with it. Mixing's not like a magic lamp where it's just like, we can magically make everything better. There is a limitation to it. Sure, you might make it incrementally better, but if you had done it better at the beginning, then everything would have been better at the end. So if you're serious about recording at home and you want to get serious results, then start investing time into your skills and your knowledge, and start investing into gear in your studio that you think is going to help improve it. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support this channel, check out those links in the description below. Head over to my website. I've got drum sample packs, mixing courses, templates. There's also some cool merch over there as well now. Grabbing any of that stuff does help support this channel, and I really appreciate every single one of you who tunes in and watches regularly. Now, if you want to check out one of those mixes where I take a recording from the downstairs living room of my parents' house and mix it up into a nice polished sound, then check out this next video coming up.